The Dream Police is after me. I'm starting to dream about Fernando Tatis as a White Sox, something that's already happened before. But should we be going down this route? We'll talk about it here on the CHGO White Sox Podcast. CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you live from Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, being produced today by my pal, Sarah.
Hi.
Hello. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We got the Bulls show live in Studio
That we started
A.
before them.
That we started before them.
Because we are professionals.
And on time and prompt. Joey was in the bathroom. I mean, kid, you got to produce a show to produce. We had Bulls on earlier today. Cole Kmet made an appearance for about a half hour. We had Blackhawks today that Sarah produced. We're covering CHGO Chicago sports. Up, down, left, and right. We had a Fire and Star show just yesterday. So whatever your sport is, we have you covered here at CHGO. We are currently in the midst of the Southside Food Drive. If you do want to head over to myfooddrives.org, scan that QR code. We have raised so far around $20,000. $1 equals 3 meals, looking to help the Greater Chicago Food Depository with our Southside Food Drive. Around $20,000 have been raised so far. If you want to add on and help the White Sox community raise as much money as possible, scan that QR code, head over to myfooddrives.org/team/782427. Back here on the CHGO White Sox Podcast, we got a couple things to talk about. We will talk about Fernando Tatis, the headline. Ricky 98 is already saying, whose idea was this? He ain't coming to the White Sox. You're right. Again, I put dream in the title, and we put dream on the thumbnail because it is unrealistic. We'll talk a little bit about the Angels being a terrible organization. We'll talk about the Rookie of the Year voting in the American League. 2 White Sox made an appearance. I think one should have over the other. We'll talk about how the voting landed, and then we will give Lenyn Sosa his report card for 2025. And just assuming on how most people feel about Lenyn Sosa, I don't think that people will really like what I have to say about Lenyn Sosa's 2025. But if you have thoughts, obviously let me know. Feel free to give me your debate, your side of how you view things. If you obviously disagree with me, always here to talk White Sox with you, whether it's Lenyn Sosa, Fernando Tatis Jr., or whatever falls under the sun. Let's get into the Tatis talk. Rico asking whose idea was this. This idea of Fernando Tatis Jr. possibly getting traded was floated by Bob Nightingale. Nightingale wrote on USA Today, his typical Sunday newsletter, about Fernando Tatis. They certainly don't want to trade him and still may not listen now, but with all of their bloated and backloaded contracts, someone is eventually going to have to depart, and no one making big money has more trade value than Tatis, whose 14-year, $340 million contract suddenly looks rather reasonable. This isn't an absurd idea as well. I know that the Devers situation is different, but we did see a player that made over $300 million get traded. I think the Padres are in a more difficult financial spot than the Red Sox were. I think the Devers trade had to do a little bit with fit, not solely because of the contract. But with Peter Seidler's death, the Padres are in a fairly iffy position. Seidler knew he was dying, and it was similar to the Mike Ilitch situation where he went for it at the end of his life as Detroit Tiger owner, trying to win a World Series, signing Scherzer, Verlander, Cabrera. I think part of that was, Victor Martinez, etc. They looked to really bolster that team as much as they could. Price, Porcello. It's similar to that and them hitting the end of the road on that. And it's mainly Tatis's name being brought up because Machado is fairly untradeable. Machado's first contract when he signed in 2019, the White Sox being, $25 million off of the final number that he ended up getting. That deal got overrode by an extension, and that extension that pays him till he's 40, pretty much for the next 7 to 8 years will pay him $40 million a year. There's really no reason to trade for Manny Machado, and it seems like they'll be stuck with the Machado contract for a while. It doesn't seem like they want to operate at the current payroll level that they are. And it's coming down to, well, what can we do? We have to get out of this in some way. Tatis is a possibility. This would be similar to the Devers trade, and the other one that I think of when you break it down, it reminds me of the A-Rod situation. Obviously, it's a little bit different when the A-Rod signed in 2001 with the Rangers for 10 years, $252, highest paid baseball player in the league at the time. Tatis isn't at that level, but it just became too expensive for the Rangers to afford him. Right now, the estimated payroll is $201, and that doesn't include them letting Michael King walk as a free agent. Cease also looking to walk as a free agent. They don't have a full team right now because they have extensions to Musgrove, Darvish, Pavetta's making a decent amount of money. Cronenworth's making $80 million until 2030. Machado obviously making $350 for the next 8 years or so. Bogarts on top of that, $280 million. Bogarts and Machado are fairly untradeable. Tatis right now at 27 for the next 10 years at $297 million. That sounds like a steal on the open market. That's sort of the issue I see with Kyle Tucker, right? Tucker is reportedly going to make over $300 million this year. I would even push that to $400 million. And it doesn't seem like teams are going to be that active with Tucker. It seems like the Dodgers, if they want him, will be able to sign Kyle Tucker. The Tucker number sounds absurd, but 5 years from now, if Tucker's still the same player, that contract's going to look like a steal. This Tatis one, him being 27, and for the next 11 years making, or 10 years making $297 million, that's an utter steal. For a player that has shown, too, that he's not just a shortstop, that he's able to move out to the outfield and become a high-level defender there, this just seems like a no-brainer for a team to jump in on this. This seems like a star of the league in the prime of his career with more than one elite talent becoming available for a fairly reasonable offer. I think the White Sox should be in on this. I think any team that operates efficiently should be in on this. 297 isn't something that will cap your team at all. And Tatis this year is only making $20 million, around where Luis Robert Jr. is making. After that, he's making 25. Then it gets up to 36 in 2029 and stays like that until 2034, I believe, because of just it being a contract that ends in 2034. I would give them whatever they want. And if part of this is the reason that they're trading them is because of money, can they just take on all of it and just give up less? The Rangers deal that got A-Rod out of Texas and into New York, the Yankees got $67 million, but had to eat about $162 million of the remaining deal for A-Rod. They would then extend A-Rod so the Rangers wouldn't have to pay that because then the original deal just got written over, kind of like what happened with Machado. But the Rangers only got Alfonso Soriano and Joaquin Arias. Soriano, obviously a great player, and they end up trading Soriano 2 years later. But still, it was mainly about the money. You look at the Devers one as well. He was dealt for Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, 2 MLB players, and a pair of prospects, James Tibbs III, the fourth prospect, the Giants' fourth prospect at the time, and Jose Bayo. Hicks is a fairly expensive guy that was a starter for a little bit with the Giants, but then had to be moved back to a relief role. So he's fairly expensive for a reliever that isn't massively great. And Harrison's fine. Harrison's if Kai Busch was a major leaguer. And then Tibbs, he's a decent player, but it wasn't the top of the top. If the Sox were to offer the Padres $297 million just to take on the contract, Billy Carlson, their third prospect, and let's say Sosa to give him a major league bat, hell, if you wanted to throw Shane Smith onto there, or Davis Martin, or the center fielder currently, I know Robert would be $20 million going back that way. It kind of negates Tatis and Robert for 2025 or 2026. But there's a lot of machinations that I would do that feel like they could work for the White Sox. You want to give him Edgar Caro? Carlson, Caro, and you take on the 297? I would do a lot for Fernando Tatis Jr. I really don't understand why they would trade him, and it does seem, again, that it's just really a desperation move financially. And if you have Justin Ishbia's backing, you have the backing to have two franchises in the city of Chicago, in the White Sox and the Bulls, this should be a somewhat no-brainer. The White Sox were interested in A-Rod back in 2001. This is around the same amount of money, $40 million more, but it's also, 24 years difference? They were looking to sign Machado in 2019 for $275. This is like a $25 million difference. I think if you were interested enough to sign Machado back in 2019, you could talk about this 297 money. Maybe you need to give more because I think, a lot of teams would be interested in Fernando Tatis Jr. This was a move that, truly back in the day, only the Yankees could make. So maybe the Dodgers, or I don't think the Padres would want to trade for Tatis to the Dodgers, but the Yankees were in on it, the Mets. Maybe it gets a little bit hairy, but if it's only about salary, any team should be able to make this work. Tatis, different conversation because he had the steroid suspension because of the ringworm gel that he was using. But still, a player that in 2021 put up 6.8 WAR, 4 WAR in 2023, 2024 put up 3.3, and then skyrocketing. In 2024, he was injured too, only 102 games played. Could have been part of the suspension as well. But came back, pretty much played a full season in 2025, 155 out of 162 games, and put up a 6.1 WAR. They 130 weighted runs created plus, 25 homers, stole 32 bags. I would hit whatever button, pull whatever lever, pull whatever strings to get this happen. If Justin Ishbia was somehow able to alleviate the pain of taking on $297 million to absolve the White Sox of the sin of trading away Fernando Tatis and bringing him back, you could probably rewrite a lot of Rick Hahn's wrongs. The fact that this player is even being mumbled at the GM meeting should be the White Sox sign, or any team sign, truly, that you need to attack. Maybe they want like a Godfather deal, and maybe you'd need to give up a lot more than what I'm suggesting, and I wouldn't be surprised by that. But if it is about salary, I think the White Sox should be calling, because it's not about the player. It's not about the contract. It's about the Padres not being able to afford the contract. When you look at what the Mets, as a Padres fan, you can have Tatis. Okay. What's wrong with the guy that hit 25 homers at 26 years old? Who hit 268, 368, and slugged 446. It's like the lowest slugging percentage of his career, but it's only .003 less than his 2023 year, where he put up 4 WAR. I don't understand why anyone would want to get rid of the 137 weighted runs created plus player career average through 671 games. If the Padres really are ready to move on from Fernando Tatis Jr., Chicago would welcome him back with open arms, as wide as we can spread them, to welcome back Fernando Tatis, because this is fairly absurd that the Padres are in this situation, and if they need help getting out, you have to take advantage of this, because it's not often that players like this come onto the market for this type of deal. Like this would have been a steal to sign Machado in 2019 for getting Tatis for this number, with the likelihood of just baseball franchises' values expanding and expanding the further and further we get into the future. 297 is nothing for a White Sox team that has a little amount of debt, where Ishbia is able to take on this team, help pay off that debt, and then move forward into the future. CHSN obviously is a little bit of a road bump there, but make it work. Come on. I know I'm dreaming, but I'd give up anything for Fernando Tatis. Maybe I wouldn't give up both Schultz or Hagen, but you could pry one of them away from me. You could have Billy Carlson. If you don't take Carlson and you want Bonnemer, that's fine for me. Probably not giving up Colson or Teal, but anything else, let's talk. Come on, Chris Getz, talk. Talk to AJ Preller. He loves to make a deal. Let's take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We'll be back with some Angels talk. We'll be back with some Rookie of the Year talk, and we will give Lenyn Sosa his report card for 2025. Hit that thumbs up button here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We want to let you know about our friends over at Bet365. Now is your time to sign up with our friends over at Bet365 using code CHGO365. When you bet $5, make your first wager of $5 with our friends over at Bet365. Whether that bet wins or loses, you get $200 in bonus bets to bet on whatever your heart's desires. Player props, spreads, futures. Everything is available to gamble on over at Bet365. They have some NFL offers that are fun. I enjoyed my Monday night with the 50% Super Boost profit token. I would have enjoyed my night if the Bulls same game parlay cashed, but we were just one Victor Wembanyama rebound away from that. And now with Tuesdays, it's never ordinary at Bet365. See for yourself with Tip Off Tuesday. Place a qualifying same game parlay bet with a safety net bet feature on a Tuesday NBA game and get up to $10 in bonus bet if the bet loses. Terms and conditions apply. Download the app, use code CHGO365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus. If you or someone who has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER, in-app only. And we want to let you know about our friends over at Brunt Workwear, and we have props for this read because not only do they make the best boots out there, but Brunt sent us boots to try out, and we immediately threw them into the worst of it with about 6 inches, 4 inches of snow. And not only were these extremely durable, kept my feet very dry, but the best part is that they don't make you sacrifice comfortability. They are built tough boots that feel great from day one. There's no break-in, no sore feet, because people out there that are doing real work, not just me walking 2 blocks in 4 inches of snow, people that are doing the real work shouldn't have to choose between comfort and durability. Founder Eric Gerard said that growing up blue collar and started Brunt Workwear after his friends in the trade just kept telling him the big brands had stopped listening and hadn't changed for over 100 years. They sold out to become fashion brands. His buddies encouraged him to start up a brand built for them, and that's why all Brunt products are named after the guys he grew up with, real hardworking tradesmen. All of Brunt's booths carry the name of real workers in the trade who test and inspire them. With temps dropping and the holidays coming up, it's time to treat yourself, the hardworking man in your life, with real comfort. Skip the throwaway gifts and get him something built to last. Brunt Workwear. Our listeners get $10 off their entire order with code CHGO at checkout. That's bruntworkwear.com and use code CHGO. Order today and let them know you heard it here on the show. Welcome back to the CHGO White Sox podcast. Continuing on Fernando Tatis Jr., we do have some Ryan comments that we want to get to. Ryan says, Benny, Hagen Smith, and a high-end prospect for Tatis and Machado. Tatis and Machado is way too much money to take on. I think the Padres are learning that if you aren't the Dodgers, maybe 280 to Profar, or 280 to Bogarts, not Profar. They did sign Profar, but not to that much money. Signing Bogarts, Machado, and Tatis could get a little bit hairy. I don't understand doubling down on the Machado extension, because what's the worst that happens? He asks for a trade and you don't have to pay a guy until he's like 40. Like, that's the real thing about Tatis, is you're getting a player from 27 to 33. You're getting likely the best ages of Fernando Tatis Jr., the best 6 years of him. You'll have him a little bit longer after that, but the 4 years after it, it will hopefully be an easier number to swallow just because inflation will make that number look a little bit smaller on the comparison of, other players in the league. But you could do a pretty decent job with Fernando Tatis Jr. as your right fielder for the next 6 years. I wouldn't want to give up Braden. I wouldn't want to give up Colson. I wouldn't want to give up Teal. Anything else, I'm pretty down to talk about, because, even if you're able to use Braden in that trade, you're taking part of Garrett Crochet to turn into Fernando Tatis Jr. If you traded Crochet for Tatis Jr. at the first point, I would have been thrilled. So, there's a lot of ways I could be talked into this. I know it's very, 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 very unrealistic, but Bob Nightingale said it. I'm not just talking about this for no reason. I'm not talking about this for no reason either. This came out from, I believe, the OCR, the Orange County Reporter. The Angels are blaming divorce proceedings right before the trade, unbeknownst to the Angels, as a part of reason why the Lucas Giolito trade flopped. Again, this is from the Orange County Register. The Angels believe part of what went wrong with Giolito then was that he had started divorce proceedings right before the trade, unbeknownst to the Angels when they made the decision, and he was distracted, which is very funny, as Beyond the Halo points out. You're telling me the Angels didn't know something that went viral on Twitter, or that they didn't do their due diligence on a player they were trading for? Come on. Giolito traded July 27th, 2023, and there is a screenshot from July 10th, 2023, where Giolito on Instagram says, Ariana and I have made the difficult but mutual decision to amicably end our marriage. We have shared many memorable moments and experiences together. So not only was it public information, the Angels are then blaming on giving up Edgar Caro and Kai Bush for a divorced Lucas Giolito, and a player they didn't actually do their due diligence on. I find that hilarious, and it is just another reason why that 2023 trade deadline was one from hell, with the Jake Berger deal and the fact that Kenny Williams went over Rick Hahn to do that deal. But it's also fantastic because the spot that they are in is because dumb teams like the Angels do what they do. If you're not the dumbest team in Major League Baseball, you have a decent shot of at least making the playoffs. As long as the White Sox aren't Angels stupid, you should be fine. The Angels are fairly stupid. So trading with the Angels is likely a very, very good idea. So I'm glad to see that pay off. Obviously not glad to see Lucas Giolito going through a divorce, but hey, if it got us Edgar Caro, anyways, just the Angels suck. And that's really all that matters. We could just put that out there. Final thing on Tatis as well. Just looking at his percentile rankings, the things that I like as a dork. Damage per batted ball event, 87th percentile. 90th percentile exit velocity, 97th percentile. Max EV, 85th percentile. And Seager, 98th percentile. So he swings at the pitches you want. The one thing that you don't love is he doesn't pull a ton of his fly balls, but if he was to go into maybe more of a hitter-friendly park, I know Petco doesn't typically play up well to that. I know it's got a somewhat of a short porch, but it's fairly long out there to left. And I think it's low, so it's part of the what's it called? The sea level that plays into San Diego. I think Herb used to bring up the marine layer. I don't know if that was San Diego specifically or San Francisco specifically. But I do think that Tatis would see some ballpark benefit to heading to Chicago. The winds have been a little bit more difficult on Chicago, both the Cubs and White Sox over the past 2 years, power-wise, but largely, typically, historically, right field has been more beneficial to hitters. So maybe you'd see that pull fly ball percentage tick up for Fernando Tatis Jr. But yeah, I'd do anything. If another team trades for the White Sox or for Fernando Tatis Jr. and the White Sox at least didn't call, I'll be fairly upset because I understand not spending on free agents, but this is where you easily could spend. This seems like an outlier. This seems like something you easily would have done in 2019 for Manny Machado, and you seem to be in a similar spot as 2019 with the building future. There is a lockout pending, but I don't think it's enough to not knock on that door, because if it is truly salary, you should be able to figure it out as a Major League Baseball team. Anyways, let's get into Rookie of the Year voting. The Baseball Writers of America voted for the Rookie of the Year, the Jackie Robinson award last night. Drake Baldwin won it in the NL. Nick Kurtz was the unanimous winner on the AL side. He is the 14th player to win the AL award by a unanimous vote. He's the second A to join Mark McGwire in 1987. The other unanimous winners were Carlton Fisk in 1972, Sandy Alomar in 1990, Tim Salmon in 93, Jeter in 96, Nomar in 97, Evan Longoria in 2008, Trout in 2012, Jose Abreu in 2014, Aaron Judge in 2017, Kyle Lewis in 2020. Should have been Luis Robert Jr. Shouldn't have been unanimous. The BBWAA is stupid for that one. And then Andrew Bailey. Oh, no. And then Gunnar Henderson in 2024. The voting, though, I found fairly interesting. Kurtz, 210 votes. He got all 30 first-place votes. Jacob Wilson, his teammate on the Athletics, got 107 points, 23 of the second-place votes. There was one second-place vote for Colson Montgomery, and it didn't come from Russell Dorsey in Chicago, who did put him 5. It wasn't from Jesse Rogers from Chicago, who put him 4th. No, it was from Robert Condata from the Seattle Times, who had Nick Kurtz 1, a guy he saw a ton, and Colson Montgomery 2. He had Shane Smith as 4 as well. We might have to hit Robert on the show. Mercy. But yeah, absolutely exciting to see Colson Montgomery getting that love all the way up on that ballot. Being second over Roman Anthony is really exciting to me. I know obviously Roman got second place votes, and he had 72 total points. Colson got 23. But the fact that Colson, only second half of the year, could even be in a conversation with Roman Anthony has been pretty geeked. Like, I understand the Colson stuff can be a little bit concerning because the profile doesn't seem to lend to consistency. But I don't think it's going to be like Joey Gallo level of nuclear hot or not. I do think that Colson Montgomery at some point will find some consistency at the plate. It does seem like he just is dying to be a major leaguer. And I don't think you can deny this much athleticism. The fact that he showed this much through 60 games clearly was undeniable to some people from the BBWAA. Down the list, player that did get 2 points total, 1 fourth place vote, Shane Smith, our guy. I was a little bit disappointed that there was no 5th place vote at all for Kyle Teel. Kyle Teel had a very, very good year, nearly 2 Baseball Reference WAR. He started even earlier than Colson as well, which thought I might, maybe lend to him having some more success this year. But disappointing that our guy Kyle Teel didn't get any mention at all. I think the one thing that I would say is if you're picking a White Sox, I think probably should have been Teel over Shane Smith. Smith was fine, but Smith wasn't crazy. Smith had a decent amount of struggles. The story is very impressive, and the story should be commended. The fact that this is a Rule 5 pick, being an all-star, that's a very great story. But on true play, Shane had a lot of starts to make up for that. Kyle Teel, I think, was truly incredibly impactful in his 79 games. You look at the AL WAR leaders from Baseball Reference. Kurtz, 5.41 WAR, easy winner there. Colson, second, 3.3 WAR, 71 games. Same amount of games as Roman Anthony. 71 games from Anthony. 3.1 WAR from Anthony. Just saying, Colson's better. Jacob Wilson, who ends up finishing second place, 3 WAR. Carlos Narvaez, 2.6 WAR in 118 games. Luke Keeschel of the Twins, 2 WAR in 49 games. Very scary that guy's in the division. And then Kyle Teel, 1.9 WAR in 78 games. I feel like Kyle Teel was better than Narvaez. I understand Narvaez did contribute to a playoff team and played 118 games for him, but I feel like you probably could have made a list of Kurtz, Montgomery, Wilson, Anthony, Teel. I think that might have been my 5. Probably make a good argument for Keeschel, but he's a Twin, so I'm not including him. So that would be my 5, but I think if you're deciding between Shane Smith and Kyle Teel, Teel really was the motor at times of that White Sox team in the second half. So I lean Kyle Teel, but shout out to our new pal, Robert Condata of the Seattle Times, voting for Colson Montgomery and Shane Smith. So hell yeah, Bob. Let's go. All right. Where are we at time-wise, Sarah? let's take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We'll give Lenyn Sosa his report card for 2025 after these messages here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We want to let you know about our friends over at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. New vehicles are in store at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, and this is your chance to score a great deal at the Drive Into Fall event. Head to raycdjr.com or on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. Right now, get 0% financing for 72 months available on new models. And plus, you can shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000 with a friendly team of brand expert. The team at Ray CDJR is here to help you during each step of your car shopping journey. And with Ray's Price Promise, you can shop confidently with no add-ons or hidden fees ever. The price you see, it's the price you pay. Boom. It's that simple. Go check out our partner today to shop one of the Chicago area's largest inventories to find the right vehicle for you. Don't miss out on the Drive Into Fall event for huge savings on new models. For more information, visit Ray CDJR today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at raycdjr.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Game Time. It's a very important time of the year. Hockey is going on. Basketball is going on. We're just blocks away from the United Center here at CHGO. And when you're heading over to UC, whether for a Hawks game, a Blackhawks game, I guess that's the same thing, a Bulls game or a concert, take the guesswork out of buying NBA, NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today, but it gives the advantage back to fans. You get 100% authentic guarantee tickets, and you could see your price before you buy, before you even get to checkout. There'll be no hidden fees. You can also see your view from the seat. And the best part, the closer you get to game time, this is why it's called Game Time, folks, the lower the ticket actually is. So when 15,000 people are going for a Hawks game, and you know in 2 years when Bedard's a superstar that will be a sellout, now is the time to buy. The game's at 7. Wait until like 6:45. You'll probably get a fantastic deal with Game Time. Use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. Welcome back to the CHGO White Sox podcast. We are here to talk about Lenyn Sosa's 2025, a player that I'd be happy if was traded during the offseason. I know that there's a fair amount of people that like Lenyn Sosa as a bit. Lenyn Sosa is a pretty fun bit. When he hits a home run, I do smile. It is pretty undeniable. The story of him going to the Venezuelan Winter League and dominating and then coming back and hitting 22 home runs is a fun story. I don't want to deny that. But do I think that this is realistic? Do I think that this is a player they should put stock in? Do I think that this is a player that they should avoid signing a first base free agent like a Josh Bell or Rhys Hoskins to put at first base over Lenyn? I really don't think Lenyn proved enough to be that type of player in 2026 for this team's future. Let's go into the grades. If you disagree, let me know. But be like Ryan, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Lenyn's grades are as follows. I gave him a C for offense, a D for defense, and a D+ overall. I know some people will be frustrated with that offensive grade because he does lead the team in home runs. Hitting 22 home runs, hitting 264 is decent. But at the end of the day, his OPS plus is 100. At the end of the day, even with the home runs, he's an average major league hitter, which is decent for an infielder, but he's not even an infielder. Where's he playing? He doesn't have the ability to be like, oh, well, that's a second baseman that's going to give you average to above average second base defense. So the fact that he's giving you 22 home runs is decent. It seems like he'll either be a first base or DH type. And at the end of the day, a guy that's designated to hit cannot be a 100 OPS player. And there is something to say. This is a player that's still growing. This is a player that is only just reached above 1,000 plate appearances, has played 303 games. We just talked about Tatis, who played, pretty much double that number. So it's very early into Lenyn's career in a sense. But seeing 544 plate appearances, where he has 18 walks and 127 strikeouts, I'm not that interested. You can clamor about the 43 extra base hits, but I don't think this is sustainable. The profile, I bring up batted ball per damage per batted ball event, 90th percentile event exit velocity, max exit velocity, Seager selectivity. There's some things that jump out. He does a decent amount of a job of damaging the ball. 80th percentile in damage per batted ball event, 62 in 90th percentile exit velocity, 68 in max exit velocity, 69% in pulled fly ball percent. Nice. Seager only 11%, selectivity 28%. The Seager selectivity and chase thing is what I mainly have concerns about. He doesn't force pitchers into the zone. I really do think that he could be exploited, and I'm surprised he hasn't been exploited yet. This seems like a player that come 2026, now that teams are aware of Lenyn Sosa and aware of what the White Sox did in the second half, they have to have a better scouting approach of not challenging this guy on 0-2 counts. Don't give him a pitch and just throw 3 straight balls and see if he'll chase. He likely will. If you're not giving him something to hit on an 0-2 count, can you just have that K rate continue to balloon? There isn't much about his profile that you could say, oh, this is why he's having consistent success. His walk rate went from 2.8 to 2.9 to 3.3 and stayed at 3.3 this year. His K rate has only gone up. 33.3% in his 11 games in 2022. But then, the 52, 100, and 104 D that he played in 2023, 2024, 23.1, 20.9, 23.3. It's just not sustainable. Having a 3.3 walk rate would put him since 1995 as the 8th lowest walk rate in Major League history. Livan Hernandez, a pitcher, Sean Dunston, Greg Maddux, a pitcher, Hanser Alberto, Mariano Duncan, Davey Cruz, and Mike Caruso are the only players with a worse walk rate with at least 1,000 plate appearances. Lenyn Sosa is 8th. He's technically 6th if you take off the pitchers. I don't think that a player that swings this much outside of the zone is going to be able to find consistent success. His O swing, which is swinging outside of the zone, is 41.6. His Z swing, which is swinging at pitches inside the zone, is 60.4. His Z swing dropped off 5 points from 65.4 to 60.4. It's just not where you want to be as a major league hitter. The average on Z swing is 65.2, where he was in 2024. The O swing, the typical major league average, is 28.1. He's at 41.6. This does not line up to something that will reproduce. This is a player that hit his, I think, career max in home runs at 22 this year. And I think it's all downhill from the rest. The only player that is somewhat similar walk rate to having success like that is Yanier Diaz. Diaz in 2023, 2.9 walk rate, a 127 weighted runs created plus. 2024, 3.9 walk rate, a 116 weighted runs created plus. 2025, a 3.5 walk rate, 92 weighted runs created plus. And the thing, too, about Diaz is he has a nearly 3 to 5 point lower K rate than Sosa. 19.6, 17.3, 16.8. And his ability to impact the baseball has just lessened the more and more teams have seen him. 2023, 127 weighted runs created plus. 2024, 116 weighted runs created plus. 2025, 92 weighted runs created plus. I think it's very difficult for a player like this, Lenyn Sosa, to find consistency at the plate. He had a ton of success in 0-2 counts. And he had the most, I think, 0-2 counts seen. That just tells me a lot of those homers that came in 0-2 counts are going to translate into strikeouts more. This isn't a player that can expand an at-bat. Maybe he could foul off a couple of pitches, but if pitchers are well aware that this is a guy that will chase, his chase rate is in the 3rd percentile, one of the worst in Major League Baseball, I think he can easily get exploited. So I have to give Lenyn a C because 22 home runs is not something to scoff at. At the end of the day, he was an average player when it comes to OPS plus, but I think this is a career high for Lenyn Sosa, not the start of something new for Sosa. If we look at the defense, Sosa bounced around from several different positions, played first base 307 innings, played second base 745 innings, played a little bit at third, 18 innings, and then played a little bit nowhere else. Had some DH opportunities as well in 2025, I think 11 games at DH. Largely, he struggled. First base, -1 out above average, -1 fielding run value, DRS of 0. At second base, -10 DRS, -3 outs above average, -2 fielding run value. At third base, 0 DRS, 1 out above average, 0 fielding run value. And that's only in 18 innings. And they really only put him there because they were hamstring too. They weren't interested in playing him that much at third base after he got 431 innings at third base, where he put up a -6 DRS, a -3 out above average, and a -2 fielding run value. I think he's proven that he is not a player that can play a defensive position. Now, that was also the case with Andrew Vaughn, who then sees a career renaissance in Milwaukee. But that's a player with a decent amount of pedigree that I was always like, why isn't this working for Andrew Vaughn? And he was having middling success around where Lenyn Sosa was. But then we saw that jump from Vaughn when he went over to Milwaukee. I don't think that there's much of a jump that Lenyn Sosa can make. I don't think he's as athletic, as funny as this sounds, as Andrew Vaughn. Vaughn might be a little bit slower, but I think Vaughn has really great hand-eye coordination, and he's fairly strong. I don't think Lenyn is as strong, and I don't think that he has the contact ability that Vaughn does have, where, Vaughn's nearly at like a 375 on base percentage in his run with Milwaukee, where, Sosa's under 300. This does not seem like the player that Ryan Fuller is looking for. A player with great swing decisions, a player that can draw walks, and mainly there's just a huge issue of him not having a defensive home. Maybe he's their DH, but you also need to save DH spots for Teal, Caro, etc. So I just don't think that this is going to be the vibe for Lenyn Sosa. Let's take the temperature as well with our friends over at Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their money-saving coupons. For all the right reasons, call 866-4SEASONS. The overall grade that we're giving to Lenyn is a D. Is a D+? I think that was nice. I think I gave him a D+. Yeah. Give him a D+, D on the defense. I just don't think that this is a guy that will be here long term. I think, maybe comparing him to your mean Mercedes is a little bit rude, but I think this is a Nicky Delmonico. I think this is a Daniel Palka. I think that this is a star of a past rebuild and not a star of a future team. There's no real position that he will end up playing. I think he'll get easily beaten out with guys that have more tantalizing athleticism. I don't see it working out for Lenyn, at least not here. And there's been success stories with Vaughn leaving. Romy Gonzalez has been very good with the Red Sox. Maybe Lenyn as a platoon side bat would be helpful, but I don't think there's much value in that for the White Sox right now. I think right now you need players that can possibly form their own path with the White Sox, form their own actual position with the Sox. I'd rather take a chance on Mydroth, who I know can be a decent second baseman and is around a 94 OPS plus. Can he get that 6 more OPS plus to bridge the gap between him and Sosa and then already provide better defense? He's also a better base runner. I just don't think that Sosa has enough to allure teams to trade for him, and I don't think he has enough to allure me to be like, all right, well, let's commit to the future of Lenyn Sosa. Ryan says if they sign/trade for a first baseman, I could see Sosa mainly as a bench bat. It's possible. He's okay against lefties, but they didn't really even play him that much against lefties, which I find funny. Against lefties, 140 plate appearances. Versus righties, 403 plate appearances. Maybe he just didn't play a ton. Maybe they just didn't see a ton of lefties. But even then, the numbers aren't that crazy. The on-base percentage is about 10 points higher. The batting average is about 16 points higher. But the slugging percentage is only about 8 higher, 432 to 440. I maybe he's a left-handed specialist, but I don't even think he's that good to really bring that. 440 slugging percentage, you really want, if they're a platoon bat, to kind of be more of a 900 and a 600 guy, right? Rather than 723 and 740. Maybe that lends to him being more of an everyday bench bat, like a guy that you can use in certain positions, but there's just no defensive value at all for Lenyn Sosa. I don't see it working out. Can honestly see him being a Mariner. For being honest, I'm being Nostradamus, looking into my crystal ball. I see Lenyn Sosa either being a Mariner or a Giant, but not a White Sox. I think he's likely traded this offseason. I don't know what for, but the fact that even Gene Watson, when we talked to him, he mentioned that teams were excited or interested in Lenyn last year. I think the White Sox saw what they wanted to see, and if there's an offer decent enough, like for a bullpen arm that they could put in on opening day, I think that they might deal Lenyn Sosa for that. I'd rather see Antonacci, Baldwin, Mydroth, et cetera. Hell, put Elko on that list. I know Elko's dealing with an injury right now, but there's nothing really that I'm loving. Ryan brings up Marlin for Lenyn Sosa. Maybe, but I think they got better guys down in Miami than Lenyn. I don't know if there's even a spot for Lenyn on Miami. That's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. If you have any thoughts, let us know, whether it be in the YouTube comments, whether it be on the Spotify comments. Feel free to leave an iTunes review. You can mention me on Twitter, at Sean_W_Anderson. Hit me up wherever. If you have a White Sox thought, let me know. Hopefully one day, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this month, maybe December, we'll wake up to Fernando Tatis rejoining the White Sox in a blockbuster trade. One can only hope. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the CHGO White Sox podcast. Good. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.